Hello everyone, what if Obi Wan Kenobi was in the Jedi Temple during Order 66? That's what we're going to go over today. I enjoyed writing this one, I hope you enjoy listening. I'm on vacation right now, so might not be able to get to your comments, but still, leave comments down below and maybe I will. We'll see. Either way, this is scheduled ahead, so I hope you enjoy. Alright, let's get right into it. Obi-Wan Kenobi came out of hyperspace above Utapau and was surprised to see that he was receiving a transmission from an encrypted source. This was strange, but Kenobi answered to see a quivering, frightened Newt Gunray. The Separatist leader said he was willing to negotiate a peaceful surrender with Count Dooku gone. Gunray felt like the walls of this war were closing in around him, and he decided now to take the cowardice way out of it all. Kenobi could tell that Gunray was not lying. He would do anything to save himself. And so Kenobi said that he was listening. Gunray told him that Grievous is here, and asked Obi-Wan for no prison time in exchange for the location of Grievous. Obi-Wan said that he could not promise anything, but he would tell the Chancellor about this. Gunray pondered this proposal, and ultimately he accepted. Then he transmitted the exact coordinates of Grievous's location, saying the general was alone. This was good. Kenobi ended the transmission and altered the attack strategy. With this information, they could destroy Grievous, and he could get back to Coruscant quickly. Kenobi felt he was needed on Coruscant. Anakin needed him. So he was ready to end Grievous as quickly as he could. Cody and his men locked in on Grievous's location, and Kenobi launched the attack. General Grievous was pacing alone in his small hidden-away hut on Utapau. He was about to go inform the Separatist leaders that they would be headed for Mustafar, when he heard a loud noise in the background. Grievous looked out of the hut, and in an instant, blaster fire was rained on his position. Grievous was overwhelmed, and he knew now that he was betrayed by someone. Gunray. He never got along with that coward, and Grievous let out one final scream before the entire area, free of civilians, was destroyed, and the general was spare parts. Kenobi ordered Cody and the 212th to handle this battle and arrest the Separatist leaders. He felt he was needed on Coruscant. Cody agreed to the plan, and soon enough Obi-Wan was in hyperspace, heading for the Jedi Temple. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, Mace Windu swung down to kill Darth Sidious when his hand was chopped off by Anakin Skywalker. Mace flailed in the air and was thrown into the Coruscant night. Anakin had betrayed the Jedi and become the apprentice to Darth Sidious, and he was given his first assignment: storm the Jedi Temple, eliminate all of the traitorous Jedi. And in this moment, Anakin was thankful that most of the Jedi Council either died in this office today or was spread across the galaxy. Obi-Wan emerged from hyperspace and flew down to the temple hangar. Upon arrival, he was informed that the temple was on full lockdown, but Kenobi was able to use his rank as a council member to get them to open the hangar door. He was immediately curious as to why there was a lockdown, so he ran to find any other council member. Windu, Saesee Tiin, Kolar, Fisto, and even Anakin were nowhere to be found. He ran from room to room, asking anyone where they were, and eventually he reached the meditation room, where Shaak Ti was deep into the Force. Obi-Wan urgently got to her, asking what was going on. Where were all the council members? Why is the temple on lockdown? And Shaak Ti told Obi-Wan that something he could barely believe. Anakin had found the Sith Lord, Darth Sidious, and it was their worst fear: Chancellor Palpatine. Shaak Ti said that Windu, Tiin, Kolar, and Fisto went to arrest the Chancellor, and Anakin followed soon after. Then Shaak Ti said that she was meditating, trying to find answers in the Force as to what was going on across Coruscant. Obi-Wan had to sit down for a moment. Palpatine was Sidious? He considered it, and it made some sense, but then he realized something else. Anakin went to help Windu, is what Shaak Ti said. But Obi-Wan knew of Anakin's connection to Palpatine. There was a chance, albeit a small one, that Anakin sided with Palpatine. Obi-Wan decided he would go to the Chancellor's office as well, figure out what was going on for himself. But as he left the meditation room, the sound of blaster fire and screams reached him. Obi-Wan looked down to the hallway to his left to see 4 Jedi backing up, deflecting countless blaster bolts. Obi-Wan was afraid, wondering who the Jedi were fighting, when moments later, members of the 501st Clone Legion, Anakin's Legion, turned the corner. 2 of the Jedi fell, and Obi-Wan sprang into action, joining in with the Jedi to take out these clones and ask what was going on. The young Jedi told Kenobi that the temple was being raided. Hundreds of clones were entering through the main door and shooting at the Jedi without any hesitation. Obi-Wan told them to go warn Shaak Ti, then sprinted into a hallway leading into the main area. In this hallway, there were doors to countless training rooms where younglings resided, and about 20 clones were entering the hallway. Obi-Wan knew that it was either the clones or the younglings. He had to make a choice, and so he ran at the clones, lightsaber ready to defend the temple. In the hallway, he deflected blaster bolts, cutting down his attackers swiftly. The Force was flowing through him, enhancing his senses, guiding his movements, and the first wave of these clones charged down the corridor, blasters firing. Obi-Wan expertly deflected the blaster bolts back at his attackers, their white armor being ruined by their own deflected shots. With each swing, a trooper fell, and every swing hurt Obi-Wan, remembering how many times he'd fought right next to these clones in battle. His eyes were filled with a mix of sadness and determination as he pressed forward. The troopers, forced to follow orders without question, had no choice but to face the Jedi Master in combat. In the confined space of the hallway, Obi-Wan was using his surroundings to his advantage, leaping off walls, somersaulting over troopers. The battle in this hallway ended quickly, and in the end, Obi-Wan stood amidst the fallen clones. His breaths came heavy, and his eyes were haunted by the weight of the choice that he'd been forced to make. The Jedi Temple, once his sanctuary of peace, was a battlefield, and he didn't understand how or why the clones were doing this. He listened in to the open area of the temple now, just outside of this hallway, and heard lightsabers deflecting blaster bolts, clones and Jedi dying, and something else. Lightsabers clashing against each other, and Obi-Wan heard the voice of Master Sindrellic. He yelled, "Anakin, why?" before letting out a dying scream. And Obi-Wan knew now, his earlier suspicions, his worst fears were correct. Anakin had chosen the wrong path, and only he could stop his former Padawan. Obi-Wan turned the corner and saw Anakin walking the other way. With his whole chest, Obi-Wan yelled, "Anakin!" and his former Padawan stopped in his tracks. Obi-Wan looked down to see the three Jedi, dead from lightsaber cuts, and knew that it may be too late for Anakin. But perhaps it was not too late for the Jedi Order as a whole. If he could stop Anakin's massacre right here, then perhaps the temple could be saved. Obi-Wan stood now, lightsaber ignited, and got into battle position to face his former student. And Anakin knew that in order to save Padme, he had to go as far into the dark side as he could. If that meant killing Obi-Wan, so be it. And he charged forward. With a swift movement, Anakin lunged forward and his blue lightsaber slashed through the air. Obi-Wan met his attack. The clash of their blades echoed through the temple halls, through the sound of blaster fire. Now in a lightsaber lock, Obi-Wan spoke to Anakin. "You are my brother, Anakin." Obi-Wan's voice trembled with sorrow, the weight of the moment pressing upon him. "But I cannot let you do this." Anakin's response was a snarl, his lightsaber moving in aggressive arcs. "The Jedi are weak, Obi-Wan. They're traitors to the Republic. The Jedi teachings have blinded you to their true power." Obi-Wan's expression hardened with determination as he countered Anakin's blows again, his blue blade striking back on an offensive push as he spoke at him again. "Those who embrace the dark side are weak, Anakin. Why are you allowing this Dark Lord to twist your mind?" In a surge of fury now, Anakin unleashed a torrent of attacks, each strike more and more angry. The battle raged on to the middle of the temple, chaos surrounding them as they were stepping over bodies, moving through blaster fire. And as the battle reached its peak, Obi-Wan's composure and experience began to outmaneuver Anakin's blind rage. He realized the only thing that could have pushed Anakin this far down the dark path. Obi-Wan yelled, "What would Padme think about this? What would your mother think, Anakin?" And Anakin was now perfectly distracted. With a swift motion, Obi-Wan disarmed him, sending Anakin's lightsaber clattering across the temple floor. And Anakin fell to the ground. Obi-Wan raised his lightsaber for the kill. But he didn't swing down. He couldn't. He couldn't do it because as he looked down at Anakin, the anger, the darkness seemed to subside momentarily. And as Anakin was looking up at Obi-Wan, all Obi-Wan saw was the face of the young, hopeful boy from Tatooine. The boy that was forced into the Jedi Order. Forced into a war. And now forced into raiding the temple to save the one person he loved. Obi-Wan saw the eyes of the boy that he failed, and he dropped his lightsaber, now holding out his hand for Anakin. Anakin grabbed Obi-Wan's hand. The moment Obi-Wan mentioned his mother, something changed. Anakin was hiding all memories of her since her death. It pained him to think about her. But what would she think about all of this? He knew Padme would never understand this. He'd failed those he loved. He was selfish, and Obi-Wan pulled Anakin to the side, saying he could still save the temple. Obi-Wan asked why the clones were doing this, and Anakin said they had an inhibitor chip that Palpatine had activated, a chip that blindly made them follow orders. Obi-Wan considered this, and realized that perhaps there was an order similar to this that could work against the Chancellor. Obi-Wan and Anakin pulled one of the clones into a room with just the two of them now, knocking him unconscious, and they trusted each other in this moment. Obi-Wan didn't know if he could ever forgive Anakin for what was happening, but right now they had to stop it. They meditated, putting a hand on the clone's head, feeling for the chip, and feeling for the order. Obi-Wan felt the clone's memories, felt Order 66. Now, together, he and Anakin dove deeper into the chip. They sifted through the chip with the Force, and deep down, every clone knew every order, but they wouldn't realize it until it was activated. Basically, there was at least an echo of every order in their brains, and suddenly, Obi-Wan's eyes jolted open. He'd found it deep in the clone's brain, Order 65. And now the two of them snuck around the temple as fast as they could, until they finally reached the communications room. Obi-Wan used his council clearance code to get access to the temple-wide communicator, and he began to speak into it, telling the clones to execute Order 65. Palpatine has betrayed the Republic. He's been a separatist the entire time, and he must be executed for his crimes. Without a second thought, the clones had a new mission. Jedi all over the temple watched as the clones gathered together and left the temple. Obi-Wan and Anakin met Shaak Ti at the door to the temple as the final clone sprinted out, informing her of what was going on. Darth Sidious walked through his office and took the elevator down to the room with his shuttle. The temple had fallen, and he was on his way to find Skywalker inside of it. But as the elevator door opened, Sidious heard the sound of hundreds of blasters being charged to fire. He shot out lightning, activated his lightsaber, pushed with the Force in every direction. But it was not enough. Every clone knew he was the true traitor, and they executed Order 65, killing him before he could ever finish his plans. Some time later, Obi-Wan Kenobi informed the Senate of everything, how Palpatine was Sidious, how the clones were programmed to kill the Jedi. He said he was able to stop the clones, and the new Chancellor, Ryo Chuchi, would organize to have all the chips removed, giving the clones ways to live in this republic that was rebuilding. And very few Jedi remained, but they would rebuild the temple, restore the Order to its glory without war. And Obi-Wan traveled to the council chambers, where he had asked Anakin to wait for the Senate hearing to be over before they discussed what was next for him. But Obi-Wan got to the chambers, and was not surprised to find it empty. Anakin was gone, running away with Padme and the unborn child to get away from everything, except for each other. And folks, that's where this one ends. One of my shorter ones, but one I wanted to just get scheduled out there. So, appreciate it. Leave a comment, leave a like, and I'll see you in the next video.